The Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast. Today I have Kirsty Heap with me. Hello, Kirsty.
Hello, thank you very much for the introduction.
Ah, that's all right. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. It's a nice morning and I always like kind of getting up early and starting my day as I mean to go on.
What's early for you?
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Early for me is not early for someone else. So early for me is 5:30. So I get up and I get outside. This morning I did a 15-minute workout and then I was outside in nature, taking my walk, giving myself that thought process of what is today going to look like? What am I wanting to achieve today? And I'm very proud to say that I'm dyslexic. That is the area I work in. So I work in inspiring people that are neurodiverse. I work with companies to explain to them what neurodiversity is. How do they support their employees? Because that whole kind of journey and aspect is really important to me. So, and I've learned from being dyslexic myself, one of my strategies is I get up earlier than what I need to then go and do my morning routine, which is where this all comes from, because I know that by spending time in the morning on me, going outside into nature, doing a bit of journaling, doing some reading, sets me up right for the day. And it sets me up right for making sure my dyslexia doesn't come up to play in its frustrations ways so much, shall we say.
Okay, God, there's so much material in that. I'm going to have to go back.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's really great because you've introduced yourself. So just for the uninitiated amongst us, and for me actually, I think I know what neurodiverse means, but I better check. What does it mean? What's your definition?
So neurodiversity incorporates various different conditions. So it will incorporate things like dyslexia, ADHD, autism, Tourette's, Dyscalculia, which is linked to difficulties with maths, Dysgraphia, which is when it comes to the shaping of letters. And there's probably another one that then my brain, because of being dyslexic, my working memory isn't always one, that I'm probably going to go, forgot that one. Dyspraxia, there you go. Dyspraxia as well. So it is an umbrella term for a range of difficulties or conditions. They are actually covered under the Equality Act. So my background is HR and operations management. So we do have the equality law there, which actually means because these are recognised as disabilities, that legally companies do have to make reasonable adjustments for them. Now, lots of people think reasonable adjustments and they see pound signs and dollar signs coming out of their heads. And it's like, no, it's not always about that. Don't get me wrong. Yes, there are some things that will cost, but it's having that general understanding. If we can all understand everybody, it makes it easier. So I think in a different way. I think and I process and I learn in a different way to what somebody that is neurotypical, which is basically the predominant of us. I just think differently to what society really is used to.
How does that show up then in your day-to-day work?
In my day-to-day work, it will come up in various different ways. So one of my strengths of having this condition is I'm good at problem solving. Why?
Uh-huh.
Because I've encountered barriers throughout my daily life and continuously. So it will come up in the different way I will attack a problem. I refer to it as you come across a gate and you need to get to the other side. Most people may look at just undoing that gate and opening it. That's great. I'll look at the bars maybe and go, do you know, I can fit through that. Maybe I can go under it. Maybe I can go over it. Maybe I can actually just lift it off its hinges. There's different ways to get through a barrier and a problem. And that's where I will look at things. I will tackle things in a different way because not always the right way will work for me. I can't proofread. I cannot proofread at all. So for me being HR, and I was a senior management in the HR, I had to find another way around that because people were expecting me to proofread policies as the manager. No. So I needed to look at my department and go, do you know what? You really love proofreading. Awesome. Let's use your strength on that and I'll give you all of it. And it was really important because it will show up in the sense of when I say I can't proofread, let's give an example. I had to write a letter about mediation to two very senior members of staff. Now, I wrote mediation. Halfway through, I changed that word to medication. But I know. Can you imagine? Holy
I
Maloney.
I actually think medicating some leaders might be the way forward, to be honest.
I love that because that's exactly what the person that proofread it for me actually said, because I spelt medication right. So it didn't come up on my spell check.
Yeah.
And when I read it, well, I'm talking about mediation. So why on earth would I have written medication? I read it as mediation. So getting somebody else to do it meant they were actually, and they said exactly that. They were like, oh, do you know, I think these two could actually do a bit of medication, but I don't think that's what we need.
A sedative for some of
Yes.
them.
Exactly. So that's a prime example how it shows up in my day-to-day life.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Right. My dogs have started arguing now in the background. I'm going to pause and kick them out. Hang on. Right. Well, I've given the dog a bone, literally. So that's got rid of him. Okay. But no, he's back. You see the door went there.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep that in because I think that's quite funny. Right. Okay. So after you'd medicated the leaders, no, seriously, when did you get your diagnosis?
So some will say I'm fortunate. I was diagnosed at 7 years old. So I've always known I'm dyslexic. Right. However, it was explained to me that I was going to struggle. I was going to struggle with English. I was going to find it difficult to read and write. I would need to think carefully about the career choice I did because of my dyslexia. It was like I was being given weights to attach to my ankles that I was going to have to drag around. Nobody explained to me the positives or the strengths that come from the conditions until I went and researched it in my 30s.
Wow.
So that was a massive kind of period of time where I felt really limited and I felt I couldn't do things. And it really, I describe it as it clipped my wings, massively clipped my wings.
I'm so glad you said that because, I mean, it seems, everybody has a label now. I have a 14-year-old daughter and, everybody in her school's got a label. And actually, I see that in the kids is that they then limit themselves because they've been given this label. Now, I'm all for diagnosis to help support people, okay? Because that's really important that you understand if you think differently, work differently, you've got different abilities physically, emotionally, all those things. It's really important to understand that. The major issue I have with the way it's done in our society is exactly as you've described, is like you handed this label and you have to carry it around like a heavy weight. And actually, you're right. Some of the kids, one of her friends has had a diagnosis of ADHD. That meant he could read the Old Testament in 2 weeks and understand it and be able to discuss it with me.
Yeah.
And he's 14.
There's some massive strengths here.
It's huge.
We all have strengths, and part of me, yes, I am dyslexic, and I'm very proud I'm dyslexic, but part of me would love to get rid of the labels and go, do you know what? Let's just look at everybody's strengths.
Yeah.
And let's work with them, because if we work with them, it creates happier people, happier environments, and it just...
Yeah, because it was like, you, mister, need to be given piles of detailed written information and then be able to unpack it. You'd make a brilliant advocate or barrister, because that's exactly what then he's really articulate when he gets going and he's got really strong, powerful arguments, but he's given this and he's been put into a class of basically underachievers, and yet he's so bright. And then they wonder why he gets really angry at school. Like, I'm not surprised he's bored out of his brains. Give him Milton's Paradise Lost and he'll be happy.
Exactly that. Let's just work to our strengths. And there
Yeah.
are companies that are starting to do it, and
Yeah.
they will start going, right, do you know, I've got a client who is a very good at sales, phenomenal salesperson. In their words, they are not good at the admin that comes with it.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because they've got somebody else in their department that's really good at that, but
Yeah.
isn't so good at that face-to-face sales. So they've joined team. She goes and does all the face-to-face. The other person does all the admin side.
Yes.
And they're storming it as a team. It's,
Do you
yeah.
know, I think it's really simple. When you're out there in the world, and you're only 3 weeks into your business, aren't you, Kirsty?
Yes, I
I have
am.
to say,
Yeah.
congratulations. What was the catalyst to going, stuff this, I'm going on my own?
I think it was the fact of I'd witnessed this, as I refer to it, people suffering in silence for too long. I
Right.
had suffered in silence. I hadn't been open with my employer because I felt I would be judged. I felt I would be maybe overlooked for promotion. And then I realized actually I needed to take that step forward and lead by example. So I started doing that. And the more I did that, the more I seemed to have people coming to me going, do you know what? I'm really glad you did that, because I don't know what support I need. And that's what I realized was actually people don't know necessarily what support we need. I didn't know all of the support mechanism. It was only through trial and error that I worked things out. And then it was that case of, do you know what? That's the element of my life I really love. Being senior management and I had probably about 5 departments I used to manage. And I loved working with those people that were neurodiverse and managers of those departments to help them develop those strategies. And I was like, wow, at 40 odd years old, I've now worked out what it is I want to do. And that's cool. I know. So then it was a case of, right, how am I actually going to implement that? How am I going to create that change? Am I capable of doing that because I'm dyslexic? And I was like, hell yeah, of course I am. So look at the problem, figure out the strategy. And I started it small. So I know for me, I couldn't just stop my job and jump 2 feet in. That's not how I work as a person. I have 5 kids. I have a mortgage. My husband's self-employed.
5 kids.
I have 5 kids. Yeah, I say kids. There's only one that theoretically is a child because they're not 18 till August this year.
Right.
But yeah, there's 5 between 23 and 17.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's probably another story because we're a blended we're a blended family.
God.
So my husband, unfortunately, was widowed, and so we've always had the 5 kids the whole time, which has been great. But it's added another aspect onto there. One of them, my biological son, he's neurodiverse as well. He's dyslexic. We've got one with anxiety. So we've got various things there. And also, I want to be a good role model as a parent. That's what we want to be. And I needed it to be done in for me, a safe way. So that meant building up a bit of a kind of buffer. So then when I've made this jump, I know that actually my mortgage is covered for 6 months. It meant that I went from 5 days a week to 4 days a week in my other HR job, to doing 4 days, 3 days, to 3 days, to let's just do it. And even when I handed my notice in, I said, right, for the last month of my notice, I need to be working 2 days a week. I'll take holiday every day. So it really helped, and it eased me into it. And that's the way I did it.
Oh, brilliant. Good for you. And who are your clients? Who do you have clients now, or who will they be?
Yeah. So what I also did was I started getting the clients from doing associate work. So Access to Work is a phenomenal government funded fund pot for people that are self-employed, which not everybody knows, as well as you're employed. And it helps people that are neurodiverse, that have conditions. So in the sense of, I have been able to get through Access to Work software that helps me. So speech recognition software. I've been able to get standing desks. I've been able to get laptops that help me. I've been able to get MindView software, coping strategies, and workplace strategy coaching. So I started working with associate companies doing that form of coaching. I then am quite known on LinkedIn, so I go and get one-to-one clients through there. And I also have started doing speaker engagements. So public speak. So last weekend I was at the NEC speaking at the Dyslexia show about
Wow.
what workplace strategy coaching is. And that was something I really enjoyed. So I really want to develop that public speaking and explaining to people, what is neurodiversity? What does it really mean? And how, as an organization, can you tap into it? Make sure you're supporting your employees. Because I think we all know, when we've been employed in a company, if we feel valued and supported, we're happier. If we're
Yeah.
happier, we're more productive. If we're
Yep.
more productive, it helps the bottom line. It's nothing new. It's creating that safe space. And I think, especially as the moment after COVID, we saw so many people resign from corporate kind of roles. It's making sure people are really feeling valued now.
Yeah.
And the cost of retention of staff and recruiting staff, wow. Let's just redivert some of that budget, please, into actually helping our current employees.
Yeah, no, it's well, our proposition at TriCrest is about building kick-ass cultures, and the idea of that is that you build cultures that people actively want to belong to and are more productive and add to the bottom line, and it happens to increase the value of businesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that is valuing difference and diversity of thinking. Now, I'm a huge advocate of diversity of thinking. And part of that mix is absolutely having people with neurodiversity, because you can't have diversity of thinking without it. And I think diversity of thinking creates better innovation, better sustainability, and better growth, because somebody in your team who, like you, who says, well, there's a gate, we need to go through it, will possibly come up with the new product or the new service that really transforms a business, or a new collaboration or whatever. And it's just a case of, in organize, it's a long time since I've been in corporate, but I do coach people in very senior roles in corporate, and there seems to be, I think they end up looking so inwardly that they forget there's a big world out there. Would you say that was accurate, or what's your take on it?
Yeah, I do think they do. And I think it is. We need to kind of widen that view. And just like you said, the different thinking, I'm a very visual thinker. So I will spend a lot of time looking up to the sky, because that's where I think, that's where my processing area is. And I think it's amazing how I was speaking to someone that's dyslexic and an engineer. And he said for him, he can picture all of those small elements of putting together a car. That's the area he works in. And he'll be able to see the potential pitfalls before he's even put anything physically together.
Yeah.
And being able to do that is phenomenal. And I think with a lot of companies, they're wanting to look at different areas, different market sectors, and you've got to have that diverse workforce to enable you to actually get into that. And we've got to look at things differently. Yeah. And with 1 in 7 us being neurodiverse, you're going to have people in the organization. It's about them feeling comfortable and safe to actually speak up.
Now, do you consider yourself to be an entrepreneur now?
I do.
Good.
Yes, I
Good.
do. And even that word years ago was a bit like, oh, that's a big fancy word. I'm not one of them. But now, yes, I am. I am, because I've been able to do what I've wanted to do. I've been able to create it, and I've been able to shape it my way. Yeah. And I think that's the real magic and beauty of it, is this is going to be done my way. And that's okay. That's cool. I want it to be done my way, because I'm me.
Yeah, you're in charge. You're the boss.
I spent too many years thinking I wasn't good enough and I needed to change and be somebody else. And now I've realised that's wrong. I'm absolutely fine who I am. Is there more to come? Absolutely. Am I looking forward to who I can become and where my future is? Yeah, I am. Really excited about that.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. I really am. I have a contact for you. Maria Franzoni is a great woman to get in touch with if you want to be a professional speaker and get professional speaker gigs.
Okay.
She helps speakers kind of shape their offering and market themselves to agents. So after this, I'll put you in touch with Maria. I actually did a podcast interview with her, so you can look back at the podcast and listen to her. She's great. She's got decades of experience as a running a speaker bureau, and she's now flipped over, as I say, to setting speakers up to succeed. Great woman, really, really helpful. She's helping my brother and co-founder at the moment get an agent. So that's good.
Oh, yeah, please send over, because politely, I can't spell that surname. So if you can send it over, that would be awesome. That would make it a lot easier for me to find.
You're assuming I can spell it.
I am, but I'm hoping you've got more of a chance than what I have. And that's the thing, though. It's even having the confidence to go, can you actually send that to me? Years ago,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that. I would have gone away and been Googling Maria FR speaking person. I would have started looking and going through your podcast. I would have spent hours doing that instead of just asking you the question.
Oh, okay.
Because I
Right.
wouldn't have wanted to feel judged that I didn't know how to spell, sound, break down a word.
Okay. So that's really interesting, and that's given me a super useful insight into how I can't understand how you feel, but that's given me an insight, because I would I would have no problem going, can you spell that for me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a really subtle but very important difference, isn't it?
Huge. And I've had to ask people to spell things 3 or 4 times. And I do find that normally once or twice I can find. If I have to after the third time, I feel like I have to put a caveat on there and go, I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic. And I'm like, why am I sorry? I'm not sorry. I
Yeah.
am dyslexic. So it is about gaining that confidence. And that's why my whole journey started by putting at the bottom of my email signature, I'm proudly dyslexic.
Okay.
And I did it because I saw it in a book actually called The Bigger Picture Book of Amazing Dyslexics. And I can't remember exactly who. I think it was someone called Pip in there, put delightfully dyslexic. And they're all famous or well-known people. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was when I did it, I wasn't rereading my emails 10 times before I sent them. And this took me probably about a month and a half to notice that I only read them maybe 4 times before I send them. And I was like, but why? I kind of got that inquisitiveness, what's going on here? And I suddenly realised, well, I've already told you I'm dyslexic. So if there's a spelling error in there, I hope you'll be kind enough to understand. And actually part of me, one of those chains that had been attached to me as a child, released. And I was like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm over it. It's cool. It's done. But
I
I
love
also
that.
found, it was brilliant. And do you know what was really good? Training company that I was inquiring about for doing, implementing some training for somebody else in one of the departments. They called me and they said, we noticed your email signature. Do we need to think differently about how we deliver your training? And I was like, bingo. Now we're talking. People are taking notice. They're starting to think differently. And I was like, that's really good. I'm really glad you've actually taken the time to call.
Yeah,
So
that's
it is
great.
small things. It's that ripple effect.
It's awareness, and it's awareness. Once you've got awareness, it's awareness of, right, well, we need to ask the person what they need. And it's as simple as that, rather than making assumptions.
Absolutely. Because everybody's dyslexia is different.
Yeah.
I can't sound words out. So ka'ata is ka'ata. It's never going to be cat in my head. In my head, I'm going, why is it ka'ata, not K-A-T?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a colleague that is dyslexic. They can sound words out and break them down. And that's the thing, is you cannot make assumptions because everybody's condition is different. We may have similarities, but you can't assume.
Yeah, no, you just can't. So I was at a conference once, an entrepreneurial conference, and the speaker happened to be dyslexic.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, everybody in the room, put your hand up who's dyslexic. And these were all business owners, some of them like multi-billion pound business owners, some of them tiny business owners. And 60% of the room put their hand up.
Yep.
And it's really interesting that a lot of people with neurodiverse conditions leave school early, often because the traditional school system doesn't work. Well, let's face it doesn't work for 2/3 of people. It only works for about a
Nope.
third of people. And the rest just suffer it in silence.
Very much so.
Count the days before they can leave. And so a lot of them had left school with very few qualifications, if any, and just I loved the way they'd found their path, like you described, through that trial and error. Well, I need to find what works for me. I need to find what works for me, and it creates that creative thinking and that innovation that you need in business. So where do you think you're going to take your business? What are you going to do with it?
Well, I'm going to spread my wings and I'm going to fly high, definitely. Good. And for me, it's about inspiring other people to have that confidence within themselves and to help grow that confidence. Yeah. Whether they, especially those neurodiverse people, I want to help them to grow in that self-confidence, because I think a lot of it is around that. It's also about identifying those strategies to help us. So like I say, one strategy I have, so my diary is color-coded. Anything is blue is a meeting or something that a client meeting, a company, non-negotiable, I can't move them. Any admin tasks are yellow and green. Okay. So when I'm looking at something to book someone in, I just know they cannot be in a blue box because they're non-movables, but my yellows and greens I can move. I couldn't tell you what is in those particular boxes at a glance. I just know what they are. Now, that's been a really quick strategy for me when I'm booking clients in that has saved me so much time, because there's a real quick eyesight. I can go, there are gaps, those ones I can move, those ones I can't. Whereas before I had to spend time reading them because they weren't color-coded. So it's about helping those strategies. And for me, it is about really breaking into work with other organisations to go, you have neurodiverse staff. Company retention is always difficult. Let's look at what we can do. Do you actually understand what neurodiversity is? And a lot of what I do is doing awareness sessions with companies, talking them through what is neurodiversity, the strengths, the frustrations of it, and strategies they can put in place to help people.
Yeah. And when you do those talks, do you have anybody sort of in the room going, oh my God, that I think I might be neurodiverse?
Yes. Yeah, right. I have people. And that's the other thing. Lots of people will have different neurodiverse traits anyway, just naturally. But it's when they're really impacted, or the severity of them is much larger. Yeah. So, another one of my strategies is when I'm doing public speaking or anything, the next day I do not book any client meetings because I'm mentally and physically drained from it. Right. In the morning, then I will take a different stance. I'll do different admin tasks in the morning. And even those admin tasks I will look at and go, there are ones I could do. I wouldn't go and sit down and do my accounts. Let's put it that way. No. They're the joyful things, looking at the time of year that we've all got to go and get ready into.
I would advise you to get a bookkeeper and outsource those as soon as you possibly can.
I have, and that's the other thing I've made a conscious decision is the accountant I have actually is the accountant who my husband uses. But the reason I'm using them is because they disclosed to me about their dyslexia, which they don't do to other clients. And I said, and because you're dyslexic, I will use you because I want to try, and not 100%, I know, but I want to try and use and utilize other people who are neurodiverse to help me build what I'm about, because that to me is also then, well, it's just been what I'm all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. And the more people that can understand how other people's brains work, the better. And the more organizations embrace, enhance, and utilize that diversity, the better, because there'll be better places to work. There'll be more fun apart from anything else. Much more interesting.
Yeah. And I think a lot of things, the amount of places I see that underestimate reflection. When you do something, when you do a project, when you do a task, whatever it is, that period of reflection is really important. And that's what I utilised before going self-employed, was when I was on that journey, I took time to reflect about what I was doing. What impact was it having? Was it having the right impact? How is it making me feel? Did I enjoy those feelings? All of those that then helped me along my way. And that for me is really important. By doing things like this, by the journaling, is me recording my journey to work out what is working for me on this journey of starting this business up.
Yeah. Feelings. I talk to organizations and boards about feelings all the time. I give them the feeling warning before I talk to them about it, so they're prepared. And the reflection, it's one of the things that when I deliver leadership development, I give them the Gibbs reflective model. I don't know whether that's a model you've used, but it's widely used. And I'll send you a copy.
Thank you.
And I say to them, this is probably the single most important habit you can get into as a leader, is to reflect.
Yep.
And at first I want you to reflect formally and sit down and write out your reflections using the model. And then you'll get into the habit, and then it'll just happen naturally. Probably happens on your walks, does it? When you
a lot of kind of reflection on my walks, and journaling, the reflections come out, and hey, they come out any place, in the shower. Why is it I have ideas in the shower and things like that? But it is that period of time and reflection. Yoga, when I'm doing yoga, that will be another time where I kind of really spend time grounding.
I can't reflect when I'm doing yoga. I'm too busy trying to do a chaturanga or
I was really impressed last night. I think it's called a half locust I did, and I was like, oh my goodness, I actually balanced. I didn't do the crow. I was watching I was at a class and I was watching them in amazement going, how do people balance like this? And then inside I was going, that's a goal. We'll work up to it one day.
Yeah. I'm still working on that. I can do a headstand.
There you go. See, I don't think I can do that. You know what's going to happen now after this? I'm going to go and try and see if I can do a headstand.
Please don't. Please don't do that. I don't want to be responsible for any neck injuries.
I remember practicing for one a little while ago. So I know a couple of years ago I could, because I actually videoed myself doing it to send it to my kids and go, look what mum can do.
Well, that's quite brave. It's quite brave. Okay, so if your business had a personality or a character, Kirsty, how would you describe it?
Wow, that's a good one, isn't it? It would be bubbly, for sure. There would be lots of different strands, because in my head has lots of different strands. And that's exactly it. For me, it's a plait, because my strengths are plaited together with my frustration. And that is exactly what my business is. It's a plait of the different elements that I will bring. And it is bubbly, informative, inspiring, and supportive.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I will not be getting up at 5:30 because I discovered that does not work for me. I'm definitely a 7 a.m. person.
And that's beautiful, because we're all beautifully unique.
Exactly. Wonderful. Best of luck, Kirsty. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass, where we